Okay, so yesterday somebody said to me / a group of people that if you were to tell somebody to go practice self-love or to go love on themselves, that they would know what to do, that they would go ahead and they could just go out and they could do that. And I had to disagree, and it actually reminded me of something that I've been meaning to post on here for quite some time. So that was a wonderful reminder. And that is the difference between self-care and self-love. And for a lot of us, we know how to, do self-care. We know how to take care of ourselves. We know how to do nice things for ourselves. Whether or not we all choose to do them, that's different. But, like he had said, if you tell someone to go out and love on yourself, take a spa day, go work in the yard, practice your hobby, whatever it is, most of us can figure out something to do for ourselves that we would enjoy, and that would be considered self-care. And then here's where the difference is. Self-care is taking care of yourself in some sort of way. Super important, okay? And then there's self-love, where if I were to ask you, can you go in front of the mirror, look yourself in the eyes and say, I effing love you. I effing love you, and mean it and feel confident in saying that. Can you do that? And, when I teach mindfulness practices, self-love and self-compassion does fall into there. And this is one of the practices that I ask people, and one of the questions I ask people. And I would say 70 to 80% of the people that I ask say no, they can't do that. They don't feel comfortable doing that. They don't feel comfortable telling themselves that they love themselves. And often people will say to me, I don't really love myself in that way. And so there's a huge difference between self-care and self-love. And there's something called self-compassion that allows us to, give ourselves more love, even if we're not 100% ready to be like, yeah, I effing love myself. So there's self-compassion. And so compassion is a word that kind of comes after sympathy and empathy. So sympathy is like, I totally know what you're feeling. I get it. And then there's empathy, which is like, I not only know what you're feeling, but like I feel what you're feeling. I totally feel ya. And then there's compassion, where it's like, I totally understand what you're going through, and I would like to make it better. I would, even if it's just sending my energy to you, I want to be compassionate and somehow help this situation. And so this is so now when we bring that compassion to ourselves, we can understand where we are in the present moment. So maybe we're not at that point yet where we can be like, yes, I love you. And maybe some days we can be like, yeah, I love you. And then some days we can't, right? And so there's a thing called self-compassion. And self-compassion is essentially meeting yourself where you're at and then helping yourself move forward. That same compassion to help heal or to help fix or to help push someone further, you now put that into yourself. So now you are actively trying to create a better space for yourself. And that would be self-compassion. And so what would that look like in real life? And actually, this is such an important part of being a successful entrepreneur or business owner is self-compassion. Because so often when I am coaching other entrepreneurs, I will see people, get riddled up in this whole mindset of, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I should be better at this by now. I can't do this. There's so many different thought processes, or like, I should be able to do so much more than I'm doing right now. I'm not doing enough. And, you start to put yourself into this negative self-talk. And what actually happens within our brain is that our negative self-talk is taken by our system, by our brain, as a threat. It doesn't matter that it's coming from ourselves. It regulates it just like a normal threat. So it basically triggers the fight or flight response. And so what happens then is we get cortisol, we get adrenaline, so now we get stressed out. And when we activate the fight or flight response, because it's trying to take all of its energy to keep us alive, then it starts taking energy away from other parts of the brain. And so it's taking energy away from the prefrontal cortex. That's the first place it takes it from, because the prefrontal cortex doesn't keep us alive like the rest of the brain does. It's basically what makes us human. It gives us problem-solving skills, logic, impulse control, emotional regulation, all of this like person-to-person communication and all of that. That's all like the prefrontal cortex. So it kind of shuts that part down. And so when we are consistently berating ourselves about things that we're doing in our business or anywhere, then we are triggering the fight or flight response, shutting down the prefrontal cortex, or at least taking energy away from the prefrontal cortex. And thus, now you're sitting at your computer being like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing here. I can't think straight. I just, I'm trying to write this copy and I just can't write this copy, and et cetera, right? So it all is in this line of, a domino effect, right? The second we say something, well, maybe not just one little thing, but still it does trigger, right? You say a couple nasty things to yourself and now your brain is in threat. And so it fires up all this stuff. And so, I see people in this space and then being like, and it's just getting worse and worse. I can't concentrate. I can't write anything. I can't do anything. I'm getting behind. Yeah, you are, because you're shutting down the part of your brain that's going to do all that for you. And so this is why it is so important to be compassionate towards yourself. And if you are one of those people that can't look in the mirror and be like, I effing love you, that's okay. Meet yourself where you're at and help yourself move to a space where perhaps one day you can do that. And so this is what self-compassion is and why it is so important in our business, in entrepreneurship, in everywhere, really, in our lives. So keeping that in mind, I would love to know, keep in mind what you're saying to yourself. And if it's not something that you would say to your best friend if they were experiencing the same situation, then you shouldn't be saying it to yourself either. Okay? So what I would love for you to do right now is, once you leave this video or sometime today, I would love for you to write down 5 things that you are proud of yourself for in the last 24 hours. And one of them can totally be if you're like dressed today, because I feel like that would be one of mine for today. I don't think I've put on like jeans and a necklace and all this stuff in a while. So that would definitely be something I'm proud of myself for today. But yeah, put 5 things you're proud of. And this is a practice I love for people to do every single day. You can be grateful for so much. I love gratitude practices and I encourage you to do gratitude practices as well. But I would love for you to each day write 5 things that you are proud of yourself for in that day. And allow that self-love, that self-compassion to come, and allow that prefrontal cortex to come back online. Because right now, the last thing we need to add to everything that's going on in the world, which is already triggering our amygdala, or our amygdala response, the fight or flight, is we don't need to be then being mean to ourselves and increasing that trigger. So whether it's today or it's in your business or what have you, be compassionate to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be really, really kind to yourself. Don't go out of integrity and be like, well, I didn't need to do that anyways. But be kind to yourself. If for whatever reason something doesn't get done, then be kind to yourself. Allow that space. Treat yourself like you would treat your own best friend. And this is the difference between loving on yourself and self-care and true deep down self-love and kindness toward yourself. Peace.